Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name is Luke Payson. Welcome back to everyone who is already a subscriber to the show. If you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe so you can see more great interviews, including the one coming at you right now. First-time guest on the show. It's always exciting to have a first-time guest on the show. And this first-time guest is also coming off a first-round TKO in his debut at Made Men Promotions, which was just a couple days ago down in Morgantown, West Virginia. Welcome to the show, Cam Jenkins. Cam, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
It's great having you on the show. You're coming by way of the Immortal Gym in Ohio, named after the head coach and owner, Matt the Immortal Brown, and also in some ways sort of Hammer Squad 2.0 in the sense that Mark Coleman, the legendary UFC Hall of Famer, also trains out of there. Before we get to the fight, let's talk about what got you into MMA. What type of sports background did you have? I know you're a fairly young guy. How long have you been training at Immortal? And what got you interested in MMA?
So I actually originally started playing soccer. So I played soccer, and that was my main sport up until 8th grade. And then I stopped. I actually started wrestling in middle school, 7th grade, wrestled all the way through middle school. But in 8th grade, I decided to fully focus on wrestling. So I decided to go to Westville North. That's the best wrestling school. You always want to, luckily I was able to go there. So it was nice. And that team there and some of those guys I met, obviously like Lucas, like became lifelong friends. So graduated. Then I ended up going to Ashland University, wrestled all 5 years there. And then after that, I was like, well, what do you want to do? And I was always wanted to fight. Like that was just something I always had thought about. And obviously by that time, Lucas had already started. And I was always kind of like, do I want to do this or do I not? And I wasn't really sure. And then I cornered him for his fight. And I was like, I got in there. I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And so after that, I just started training at Immortal. So probably about 3 years, battled some injuries through that time. And here we are.
Well, you mentioned Lucas Sniper Siebert, who's now an undefeated pro and had about as good of an amateur MMA career as you could possibly have, 5-0. Took his first amateur MMA fight for 247 just a few months after graduating from West Virginia University. Obviously, been friends with him since middle school. It sounds like that's really the wrestling connection. Did you guys do any training together at Immortal? Because I know Lucas, before he became a Pittsburgh Stout guy, he was at Immortal. Did you do any MMA training there together? And what was it like joining the Immortal Gym?
Around that time, I was like just getting out of school and finishing up. So we didn't really get to train a ton before he had already like went down for his first fight. We got in there a few times, and I like went to a few classes, but I hadn't like really started committing yet. But just being in that environment, it makes you want to come back. Like you're surrounded by all those guys. They're all in there. They're working hard. Great group of guys. So, I mean, I love being there.
And give us a little bit more understanding of Immortal. I've met Matt Brown. He was at one of the 247 fights when we went out to Cincinnati, because of course that's in the Ohio range. Who's your main coach? Is he there a lot? Do they have like certain classes? Like describe a little more, because I've never had somebody talk specifically about Immortal. By the time I had Lucas on, he was more of a stout guy. And of course, now he coaches and does all that through stout. So tell us a little bit more about your coaches and what their Immortal Gym's like.
So it's a lot of classes. There's a few teachers for each class, so it's depending on like that time of day or what day it is, obviously. But I will say most of the time we get in there and we have a plan and ends up getting in the cage anyway. So usually that plan doesn't last too long. But yeah, we make sure to try. I mean, there's Muay Thai class. You just have regular striking class, grappling. There's even classes in like 6 a.m. sometimes. There's always some in the evening, so you can always go to both. So that's always nice.
That is very nice. And because you're new to the sport, what do you do day job wise, and how is it balancing whatever you do job wise with being focused on training?
So I'm actually a property manager for a community housing network here in Columbus. So 40 hours a week. I mean, It's difficult sometimes. Like I'm tired, obviously, but hey, this is what I want to do, and I love doing it, so I don't mind.
Yeah, no, that is nice. And for people that don't know, most, I would say almost all, there are some amateur fighters that kind of, you know, do it without a job, but most amateur fighters and even a lot of the low level pros are still, doing bivocational two jobs. At least one nice thing about your day job is it's not physically as demanding as if you were doing concrete laying or something. So, but let's get to the fight itself. How long ago did you think you were ready to take an MMA fight? I know you were battling through some injuries, and then when did this fight come together for March 16th? And then talk us through the fight.
So I guess starting. So obviously, yeah, like you said, I was battling through some injuries. Finally got to the point where I was healthy enough. Got cleared, good to go, and immediately just like jumped right in as far as I could. And then from there, it was just trying to get better, get dialed back in, getting my leg strength back. And then leading up to the fight, it was like I asked Lucas, I asked Josh, I was like, "You guys think I'm ready?" And they gave me the go ahead. I was like, "All right, if you guys think I'm ready, then I'm good to go." And finally got a fight. We had my first opponent fell through. Um, Took a boxing match in between,
Mm.
and then so he got banned for like 6 months or something. And then they thought they had another guy for me, but he had a fight fall through also. But he was too far out of weight for me, and we even tried to do a catchweight 160. He couldn't make it, and then this Zach Fry stepped up, so that was cool of him. I'm happy for that because I was excited, I was ready to go, and obviously leading up to it, I'm like, it's the week of. I drove down and went to like stout on Wednesday, but that week prior, I was like, I don't even know if I'm gonna have a fight, but we were still planning like I was going to, so I'm glad it came through.
Yeah, I'm glad for you, and hats off to your opponent for taking a fight on almost no notice to keep the fight on the card. And for your amateur debut, that's kind of unfortunately pretty typical. That when you're 0-0 and your opponent's 0-0, you can go through lots of opponents. I still remember cornering one of my fighters when a fighter pulled out because from what we were told, he had a better opportunity to cut grass and make money that Saturday, and it was an amateur. He was an 0-0. And obviously, I understand people's need to make money, but when it comes to amateur fights, there's nothing really forcing somebody to fight, and so that's what makes it tough. But I'm glad your fight happened. What was it like walking out? Once your fight came together and you actually had an opponent, you're walking into the cage. What did that feel like as far as connecting to all the training and all the effort you've been putting out?
Well, I will say the walkout was not the best. So I don't know. Whoever saw the stream knows. If you saw, I guess that was the first fight. I'm sure people were watching then. But so they started playing my song before they'd even told me that I was up. So I had just started warming up. Maybe got like 5 minutes of shadow boxing in. Hit pads for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and they're like, "Hey, they're calling you down already, and they're playing your song." And so didn't get much of a warm up, which obviously isn't ideal, but I was still good to go. I went down there and they called me out to start me walking, and they still played my song late again. So threw me off a little bit then again. But once I got in there and I touched those steps and I walked in the cage, I knew, yeah, I just big exhale and I was good to go.
That's great. And a little bit of those things, particularly when you're the first fight on the card. I've been at events where the cage gets damaged and there's this long gap, and then it's the opposite way where fighters have been warming up, they're on pace, on pace, on pace, and suddenly there's a 45-minute gap where it's unexpected. So mentally, that's good experience in the sense of getting prepared for the unexpected. Walk us through. The fight only lasted a minute, 1 second, whatever it was. Walk us through what you remember of the fight from your perspective.
We clapped hands and he jabbed me in the forehead immediately. And I remember in my head, I was like, there's no way he just hit me first. Just see me, I was like, oh, here we go. And so then I kind of just stalked him down. I knew what I wanted to do. Uh, Heard Lucas and Josh call out my code word for overhand, hit him with the overhand, pushed him against the cage, picked him up. And once I had that double leg, I knew it was like, no, I'm taking you down. I mean, I wrestled in Ashland D2.
Yeah.
So I got that double leg and I was good to go, got him down. Then I know I was ground and pounding for a little bit, and I was like, I wonder if the ref's gonna stop the fight. And then he didn't. Got up, circled him. I tried to hit him with that like Superman punch, and I didn't time it right, and he moved. I shot it way too late for where I wanted it to hit, and then he threw that kick, and I've drilled that so many times. Just going with Josh Pereira, I mean, I don't know if I can get like better type of striking, more dynamic striking than
Yeah.
that. And it's not going to be near. They're never going to be nearly as fast as him. I mean, Josh catches me with shots all the time, so I know if I can block some of his, I can get pretty much anybody's. That's what my thought is. So, and it worked out for me. Caught it, got the takedown, right back to ground and pound, and got the TKO.
Well, that's great. And the fact that there was a bit of a reset, that you got back up and went back to striking, obviously it's a fast finish, but you had a little bit more cage time, a little bit more to read. Obviously, great shout out to Josh the Flying Hawaiian Pereira. He's a friend of mine, friend of the show. He's been on a bunch of times. And yeah, that goes to not only the gym you train at, which is obviously a legendary gym under a legendary coach, but also your individual sparring partners. That goes such a long way. Speed, looks, angles, all those type things. And like you said, speed kills. And so when you get used to timing fast, when somebody's a little slower, obviously it works out really well. Emotionally, you mentioned that big exhale when you got in to kind of ground yourself and get into the fight. Emotionally, what was it like? Being pulled off somebody is kind of a dream when it comes to getting a finish, right? Because it's not even a tap out where you kind of know, when you have a rear naked choke in or something. You're kind of almost like, but you're kind of in that finish mode, that kill mode. You probably did a ton of dummies where you get on the dummy, you do ground and pound. So what was it like actually being pulled off in a real fight by a real referee for your first win?
That was the most fun thing I've ever done in my entire life, like hands down. I don't know, it felt good to get in the cage and like obviously we spar and you can hit pads and everything, but to actually get in there and actually like let my hands go and feel what power I have and can put behind punches, it felt good. So like obviously like you said, it's the dream. You want to get the TKO, you get pulled off and everything, and it went exactly how I thought it would. There was not That's how I thought the fight would go. I knew if I got him down, I was probably going to end up getting in the ground and pound and probably winning the fight that way. So I'm glad everything worked out the way we planned, and I'm glad I stuck to it. So
Well, that's about as good, best of an outcome as you could possibly hope for. What is next for you? You're healthy. You came through the fight healthy, which is a big deal. You've got that cage experience for as long as it lasted. Clearly, you have sort of the model in both Josh Pereira and also Lucas Siebert and everybody else at the gym, where we've seen amateur fighters. The game plan, how to fight, how to take fights, staying busy. Pushing yourself. Then eventually, maybe Lucas got an amateur title fight. Like there's things out there, opportunities out there. So what do you think is next for you?
so the plan is right now to get a fight on the 20th of next month.
Okay.
Either preferably in the made men card in Youngstown,
Sure.
or if not, then the 247 card in PA. So either one.
Well, either one would be great. I'm partial to 247 because I'll be there doing some of the broadcasting. I do know it's already an absolutely stacked card for April 20th, and I just had a debut fighter who's going to be making his debut for 247, but is a Division II national champ, Noah Hermosillo. What was your experience like at D2? Did you wrestle all 4 years, and what was it like wrestling at that level? Because it's not D1, but it's still very good experience in wrestling.
So yeah, I wrestled off 5 years. So I got that like the red shirt year or COVID
Sure.
year, I think. So I ended up my 5th year. It was that freshman year was tough. So you obviously, so you think you're like one of the top dogs at your high school or in your area, and then you go up to college and it's like everyone in that room was a top dog at their high school in their area, and you realize that like you're not as good as you think you are. It's a reality check, very like so quick right off the bat. So It was a bit of a culture shock too. Obviously, coming from like Columbus up
Yeah.
to Ashland, Ohio,
Yeah.
very different area, very different. So I still had a great experience, and like that, I can say that like all the years I was there was still a great experience with like my teammates and everyone else. I roomed with actually one of the local kids from Pickerington High School, Chance Esmont, like every year of college, except for my freshman year, except for my freshman year. It was cool. We knew each other, and we'd always ride back together, like when we're coming home or when we're going back up to school. So that was cool that we had like a bond there. And the funnier thing is that we like wrestled each other in the junior district semifinals. So like and then but that next year, we wrestled, like warmed each other up in the back room because we were both warming up for our blood round matches. So that was cool, to have him there all those years. And then obviously meeting all my friends up on the way. But as far as wrestling goes, it was tough. Like I said, I battled some injuries in college too. Um, but luckily I'm all healed up now. But still, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I mean, learning in those rooms, just like learning to be tough, made me a better person, made me a better, just hard worker, just being able to put my head down and go. I think I really hit my stride once I got like when Colt Sponseller came there. He was just his coaching style was better for me, and he was more like he was someone that I could like get behind, I guess, if that makes sense. Um, and so once he got there, it's kind of like the room changed. And by that time, we had hit my junior year, and like all my friends and chances and everything else, and we were just on that our senior year, our last year, we were on another level. Like it was a great experience. Obviously, we were on a team that I think placed fifth at nationals, but my senior year, I think we had almost, I mean, everyone that I lived with, pretty much was ranked in the nation. So it was like me, Chance Esmont, and Drew Weekers, and we all were ranked in the country. And then like we had another like Carson Spielman, we had Christian Wellman, and so and Daniel Beamer, all those guys. So that team that last year was special, and it was some of those guys that like I had grown up with, so it meant even more. We had won the GMAC that year, after not thinking we were gonna, because one of our Daniel Beamer got hurt, so luckily I was able to step in, get the win, and that's a memory that I always remember. That was a great experience.
Well, that is really special, bringing that camaraderie, what you're used to. And that's why wrestling, I think, not only technically in MMA is wrestling such a foundation for MMA, but it's also, like you said, the grind, the mental, the fact that you have to really push each other in the gym, but it's a one-on-one sport. You see that a lot, obviously, in wrestling and then MMA, where the room matters. Your training practice really matters, but then you got to be able to go out there and do it with some coaching, but on your own, and kind of balancing that out. It's been great having you on the show. I say this a lot, but I love covering up and comers. You're literally the definition of up and comer, and you've got connected to an incredible gym. And we talked before we started recording. I found out about you by being Lucas Siebert's Facebook
Yeah,
friend. Seeing him gave you an incredible shout out from your amateur debut, and then it's like a network. It's a network of
yeah,
getting people on. I hope to continue to follow you in your career going forward. Hopefully, you get something matched for April once you're officially announced for April, whichever card it ends up being, and it's public knowledge and all that stuff, and they put it up. We'll have you back just to talk about your fight, whatever your next fight is. Just reach out and get you back on. Okay. It's
sounds
been
great.
really great having you on the show. This is Luke Baser, MMA Fancast, with the victorious Cam Jenkins. Really appreciate you taking time out. Congratulations, just a few days ago, getting your amateur debut win in style for the first round TKO for Mayman Promotions. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
You got it.